power gems because they do significantly more damage.
This stream, video, whatever, is because a bunch of my friends are playing Puzzle Fighter recently because of the Capcom fighting collection. And a lot of them never played Puzzle Fighter before. So they don't really know how the game works, um, and some basic do's and don'ts, I guess you could say, and some simple strategies. I see a lot of people doing the same thing, making the same kind of mistakes. So that's kind of what I'm going to address. The first thing we're going to talk about, and I'm using an emulator for this so that I can pause and unpause it easily. The first thing is the characters and their drop patterns. Oh, what the fuck? So Ryu, whatever you want to call him, this is his drop pattern over here. This fucking thing right here. And honestly, he's probably the worst character in the game. Aside from Dan. Dan is fucking terrible because all he drops is red. He doesn't drop any other color. So if you're using Dan and you beat somebody with Dan, it's like a slap in the face. Ryu, I can't recommend using at all because his drop pattern is dog shit. As you can see from the graphic, his counter gem is just columns of solid color. This is really freaking easy for your opponent to exploit. Like, what am I doing? You know that he's going to drop red in columns 1 and 5. You know he's going to drop green in columns 2 and 6. You know he's going to drop yellow in column 4, which I will touch on in a minute because column 4 is the most important. It's like the drop column. It's the column the pieces come out. And that is the only column you can't let fill up or you die. So if you're playing versus somebody who's selected Ryu, every time you get a yellow breaker, put it directly below where the pieces come out. Doesn't matter what it's with, put it face up with the breaker on top, because if your opponent drops junk on you, the yellows are going to fall on top of that breaker and they're going to break themselves eventually when the countdown timers stop. Or countdown, I should say. That's something else we're going to get to. So, that's one really easy way to abuse people using Ryu. The other really easy way is link together either the red columns by simply placing 3 reds along the bottom, so that when these red columns do drop, they're linked together and you break one or the other and the whole fucking thing goes. So, and you could do the same thing with the green. So Ryu's like super, super shitty because he's the easiest hands down in the game to exploit his drop patterns. It's really, really, really easy to screw with him. Chun-Li, she's a little better. Um, I do use her occasionally when I don't want to be a bully. If I'm playing with people who are new to the game, I'm going to use probably Chun. Um, Her drop pattern's not bad, but it's not good either. Especially if your opponent's screen is level, because all of these things will turn into power gems because of the shape, because they're a 2x2 square. Um, this is something else that you guys need to understand when you're playing this game. If you break 4 blocks that are, say, in a straight line or shaped like a Tetris L or fucking whatever, it's going to do 4 damage to your opponent. It's going to drop 4 pieces down on your opponent's screen. You break this 2x2 big gem, that does 8 damage. So it's always in your best interest to make these power gems because they do significantly more damage. The bigger they are, the better the scaling on the damage is. Like I believe a 3x4 or a oh shit, I'd have to Google it. I think a 3x4 in does like it's 12 pieces, right? 12 cubes. Um, I believe it does 30 damage, and I believe a 4x5 does like 50 damage. And if you can get a 5x5, that's 70 damage. So, like, you break one 5x5 and do 70 damage, that's almost your opponent's entire screen. That's 70% basically. Um, so it's risky. It's risky using Chun Li because these can and likely will turn into power gems, and when your opponent breaks those, it's gonna suck for you. Um, Sakura, her middle is good, but she's got the same two outside columns as Felicia, the green and the yellow here. Um, those are a huge issue because I will abuse that. Um, and you might think, oh, yeah, well, I can just put my greens here and put my yellows there. And you certainly can do that, but you're far better off putting your greens beside or your yellows beside where the yellows and greens will fall because they will turn into power gems when your opponent drops garbage on you. So that's um that's a colossal advantage playing against Sakura and also Felicia. Um her middle is better, like her middle four rows are better because they're alternating. Um and it's harder to abuse that. Um and because it's unlikely that your playfield will be perfectly level. They're not going to fall in a line. They're going to fall staggered, and that's going to be a little more problematic. Ken, he's the only character in the top row I recommend playing, but you do have to be careful. Um, if you drop a lot of garbage on your opponent's screen, he can be one of the hardest characters to deal with. But if you're doing little chippy damage like twos and threes and stuff, everything he drops on his opponent is going to be red. And that becomes super risky because it becomes really easy to build a gigantic red power gem or huge chain or whatever. And, uh, and that can be dangerous. But that said, um, he's got definitely got a better drop pattern than anybody else in the top row. If you want to play anybody in the top row, he's probably the best bet. Um, Felicia, same situation really as Sakura. Her drop pattern isn't significantly different. If anything, it's worse. It's a little easier to deal with because the reds and blues in the middle come in a cluster. Same strategy, putting your greens and your yellows on the outside so that you make a two wide power gem up each side. Easy to exploit. Not much else to talk about there. Donovan. Actually, we can probably sum up Donovan and Morrigan um, have the most complex drop patterns. Um, Donovan, like if you're doing a steady like 15 to 18 damage, Donovan can be an absolute nightmare to deal with. Because you're gonna drop alternating. Oh my god, I've done it again. You're gonna drop alternating blues and greens on top of these yellows and reds. Senko, she can be tricky to work against, but um, if you work in the staircase, like build alternate to her staircase, like you build up this way because her stuff falls this way, you can actually turn all of that into flat shit when she drops on you, but you have to be like really paying attention to be able to make that work. And honestly, I don't recommend even trying. But she's a little weaker than Morrigan and Donovan because hers are typically linked together, allowing you to break um, potentially huge chunks. Morrigan, she's got the best drop pattern in the game. The red green in the middle sort of sucks, but the blue yellow is on the outside is really 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 annoying. Um, Donovan, you can sort of get away with the same strategy I use with Sakura against Sakura and Felicia. You can place reds where you know yellows will drop, so that when he does drop garbage, it links all the reds together, or vice versa. But yeah, basically, if you're playing to win, you want to use either Morrigan, Senko, or Donovan. I have a sort of a system. So you don't want to build in this column where the pieces fall out. If you can help. When you do a chain like this, a few things are happening. And I'll have to kind of demonstrate in order for any of it to make any sense, but I was tempted. Break. I'm waiting for a yellow or a red, what they call a crash gem technically. Breaker is kind of the more common term, I guess. I might kill my opponent. So by breaking this red one, it then drops the yellow one. Everything that happens after the first segment, like the second part of the chain, does significantly more damage. I believe it does 1.5 times the damage. So I'm seeing a lot of people not understanding that and going straight for the big breaks right away. So here's a situation. I want to break both of these. I could drop this... Oh, wait. I could drop that in the hole and break them both at the same time. But it's far more beneficial... Oh, I fucked that up, actually. It would have been far more beneficial if I would have put that on top of the blue one and had it fall down to break onto the yellow one. Okay, here's the situation. Breaking these two yellow break gems together. Grab my little cursor again. These two will do 2 damage themselves. The red one on its own would do the break gem and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. So that would do 8 damage. However, by comboing this, by breaking the yellows and having the red fall to break the reds, it will do... I think it's going to do 14 damage? Why will you not unpause? Hello, game. 2 and... Oh, it did 11. I know Sakura's gonna build green on the outside because of her pattern. Not a concern. I know she's gonna build yellow on the right side, which is why the yellows are there. I really don't want to put that there at all. I'm playing a very dangerous game right now against this computer character. Okay, so this will break that. That'll combo into that. That is not really how I wanted that to go, but okay. There's another thing. Okay, this diamond. Diamond eliminates everything on the screen of a given color. Whatever color you set that diamond on down on, it eliminates it all. However, what it doesn't do is it does not give you credit for your power gems. These big fuckers. Because these do way more damage. This is only 6 pieces, but I believe it does 15 damage. Or 12 damage, or something like that. I can't remember the specifics, the numbers, but it does way more damage than just 6. However, if you break those reds with your diamond, you only get credit for each individual piece of that would have been a single gem. So you're costing yourself a large amount of damage to your opponent if you are using that diamond to break the biggest thing on your screen. The best thing to do probably is to break the smallest on your screen. In this case, I will use, because I've got it's attached to a red breaker, I'm going to just put it on the yellow and get rid of it, because it doesn't help at all. Okay, now if you look over here, you'll see, oh fuck, I did it again. This green break gem is attached to these that are counting down. So when this garbage is dumped on your screen, it comes over with a 5 on it. If you break stuff with the diamond and drop stuff on your opponent, it'll only be a countdown of 3. So it's actually, again, it's more beneficial to you to use the diamond to break something small to create opportunities for bigger chains. Than it is for you to eliminate a huge amount of stuff on your screen. Like, I've got a ton of red. If I would use the diamond to get rid of the red, it would have done probably 25 damage or something. But when I do actually break these with a proper break gem, it'll do significantly more damage than that. Yeah, so this is really gonna hurt. Like, this is gonna do like 70 damage, probably. That did 67 damage. The difference between 25 and 67 is, like, substantial. So, okay, here's a great situation. Those 3s, that's because my opponent used their diamond. I've got this double breaker. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over so that the blue is down and put it directly up, like, below where it's sitting right now. Because once you place, every time you place a block, the countdown gems count down 1. So after I place 2 more blocks, that's going to turn, that blue is right here, for fuck's sakes, is going to turn into a 2x2 power gem. This is going to turn into a 3x3 power gem. I'm going to use the diamond, which is coming next, to get rid of these greens. The red's going to fall down, and I'm going to have a 6 red power gem once all that changes. So, you might be inclined to try to just break whatever you can when you get these break gems, but you really need to be looking at your screen to see where your opportunities are, because when your opponent drops garbage on you, that's ammunition. Yeah, so then I'm going to put this here. I put that red break gem where I did because I want to save that red one for as long as I can. Okay, here's another situation we can talk about. My opponent's just broke a bunch of shit over here. I got a 7 up here, and I've got this. I've just I've just broken the blue. The yellow's gonna combo. Depending on how much damage they've done, my damage will negate this rather than it just like getting it dumped on me and then it me throwing it at it. It'll actually negate whatever my opponent has dropped on me. So that's something to take into account. Like if you see a huge number pop up here and you've got the opportunity on your side to break some big shit or break really anything, it's you got to do it because you'll mitigate that damage. Especially when like I said, when you see big numbers up there, it is imperative that you try to find a way to mitigate that damage or you're going to be in deep trouble. Another thing, when you get these, unless it's going to create a chain or it's going to break something absolutely enormous, you really don't want to place them together. You really want to find a way to separate those. So in my case, I've got this yellow break gem already here. I'm going to go straight down. This green piece is going to fall down here. And I can break this yellow with my next turn. And hopefully I'll be able to find a way to eliminate this yellow breaker to create a combo with these greens. My opponent's also breaking a bunch of stuff, so I'm about to see a bunch of garbage on my screen, so my plan's probably not going to work. That sucks a lot. Shit. Oh wow, okay, they're being super aggressive. I am dead. Oh no, I'm not dead. I just need to be able to play this. That was lucky as hell. Talk about a totally different strategy. So this is something you might see if you play online against other people. It's a legitimate strategy. I generally don't do it, but it does work, and that is it's the race to the diamond. You always get a diamond after you place 25 blocks. It's just, it happens. Both players get the same blocks, so if your opponent gets your diamond before you, you're not moving fast enough. So what people will do is they'll just pile up shit with no real rhyme or reason and race for that diamond. And I will demonstrate. Put that there. I'm not moving fast enough. Not even close. So there's my diamond. I have no idea what I want to eliminate here, but I'm probably going to eliminate red just because it's easy. But watch what happens when I do so. Suddenly I've got big chunks of green, I've got chunks of blue. It's not very well organized, but it's created opportunities for me. And that's just sort of like, that's the strategy, is to try to like get that big shit. I broke that yellow one first before the green one because that makes the second leg of the chain do more damage. So if you've got a big thing and a small thing and you've got the option of breaking one or the other first, always break the small thing first to create the biggest amount of damage on your chain possible. Fucking relentless. I set this up to create a chain. This green one, when this 3 counts down, this green one will break it, causing the yellow breaker to drop, and it will break all this. That's going to do significantly more damage if I just drop the yellow in there and broke this on its own. Also, breaking these countdown blocks, each one does a half a damage. So you need to break 2 of these countdown blocks in order to deal 1 damage. So you're almost always better off trying to let them count up, unless, of course, you're up at the top here. But I'll talk about that after the fact. When you get up to the top of the screen like I was there and you're in the danger zone, 1, don't panic. Try to stay calm, because you'd be amazed at the amount of situations you can find yourself getting out of and having a huge amount of ammunition to drop on your opponent. But there's a few things you need to be able to focus on. 1, which piece is coming next and where you want to place that. Again, you only die if column 4, where the blocks come out, fills up. If you've got 1 empty space on any of the rows, you can move that sucker left and right and push it over there. But what you're watching for is you got to watch for break gems and any pieces you can join together to break. If you've got a whole bunch of countdown blocks near the top of the screen, you can eliminate those by breaking blocks around adjacent to them, but it's risky. Now, obviously, if you're in that situation and you get the diamond, anything you break is going to help you. But you want to focus your efforts on that column 4 to clear out as much space in that column 4 as possible. Because basically, if that column is empty and your opponent does 60 damage, that column's going to fill up 2/3 of the way. The only way your opponent can kill you if column 4 is completely empty is if they do 99 damage, which is the most they can do. That's the only way they can kill you, and it's fairly difficult to do that kind of damage. So, but the same thing goes for, like, say they do 18 damage. That's going to be 3 full rows of blocks. So you're only going to get 3 blocks in column 4. If columns 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 are full right to the top, you don't get 18 down column 4. The game still distributes that evenly over each of the columns. So, you know, you're only going to get whatever there's room for, basically. You're not going to get the whole thing. That's something else to keep in mind. Again, which is why it's really, really important to keep column 4 as clean as possible. See how much stuff he broke with that diamond? And it dropped basically nothing on me? Like, that's because the diamond doesn't do that much damage. Lucky. When you do want to start breaking stuff, you gotta make sure that you've got enough junk on your screen that you're gonna be able to kill your opponent. Because if you go too early, like that right there, I shouldn't have done that. I just gave my opponent a whole bunch of ammo to use against me. You get to fight Akuma, and Akuma's drop pattern is basically nonsense, and Akuma's brutal.
Ready?
off the cat and holy crap. First kick of the cat, and I need Akuma. I don't believe it. Usually he's an absolute bastard, but I had a nice couple of combos. Well, that's pretty much all there is to this game. There's a lot to think about. And that's really all I'm here for. Just to get through that and explain some of the crap that is going on in this game and some of the mindset behind what I think works the best. Honestly, it's go fast and try not to think too much about what you're doing is generally the best strategy. If you think too hard, you end up going slow, you get behind, and you get jump dropped on you, and then you are fucked.